Welcome to Yale and the story of Emory City. Locals tell legends of great riches shadowed by tragedy and greed, a powerful poison for many. Tales of lost treasure, murder, suicide, and heartbreak, leaving many spirits to rest along the gold banks of the mighty Fraser River. The story of Emory City was made by chance when a group of amateur prospectors, former firefighters from San Francisco, headed north on the Fraser River. James Moore, a 25-year-old celebrating his 26th birthday, stopped for lunch at a small bar alongside the river. While they were eating, another member of the party, Edward Hill, noticed yellow glimmering through some moss growing on the rocks beside him. In a few short weeks, hundreds of men flocked to the banks by canoe, steamboat, and on foot. Many were Americans, desperate to strike it rich after previous missed opportunities. Tensions quickly rose with the native fishing grounds, overrun with lawless Americans. By 1858, over 25,000 men had traveled up the Fraser River, staking claims and working the banks in an attempt to strike it rich. 500 men are recorded to have spent the freezing winter of 1858-59 camped at Emory's Bar in tents and shingled dwellings. In the fall of 1879, Emory City became the Canadian Pacific Railway western terminus. The city soon consisted of 13 streets, 32 blocks, and 400 lots. The Inland Sentinel newspaper, the first on the mainland, opened a two-story building on Front Street, and Emory City sawmill was producing 21,000 board feet of lumber in a 24-hour shift. 2 hotels, 9 saloons, a brewery, blacksmith shop, general store, and a few less reputable businesses. Unfortunately, by 1881, it was obvious that the CPR would make Yale their center for railroad activities, and Emory City was abandoned and lost forever. By the late 1890s, people traveling through the area said not a single trace of the city could be found, as the forest reclaimed the site. Welcome to the Pioneer Cemetery. You can't help but feel honored to be in the presence of so many fine men and women who rest here. A tiny sapling once carefully planted by a loving family member now tower above us all. But walking these grounds, you can't help but feel a sadness or loneliness that lingers in the air. James Robertson, born in Scotland, was a railroad laborer. Riding on a handcar, it collided with CPR steam locomotive 364, killing him instantly. On November 29, 1888, Canadian Pacific bridge carpenter Peter McPherson and colleague Bodine Combe were caught and killed in a rock slide north of Yale at Sailor Bar.
April 1882, age 6 years.
Albert Ward, age 4, firstborn son to William John Ward and wife Alice Squablia, killed in a stagecoach accident. Daisy Sumner, born in London, Ontario, she moved with her family to the area for the railway boom in the 1880s. The family was living remotely near Boston Bar. Young Daisy became seriously ill with croup in the winter of 1883. She faltered by the wayside, and the angels took her home. The Berry family, storekeepers for generations. They owned and operated the local red and white store until it burnt down. The family business is still operating as Berry's Trading Post. Charles Evans, born in England, was a bookkeeper in Ontario and was employed at Bernard's Express. He had a special interest in colonial affairs and served as a delegate for Yale when the Confederation League held a convention in 1868. Mr. Evans was building a solid legacy when he committed suicide. British Columbia became a part of Canada 4 months later. Mary Alice had 5 children and was a daughter of Gold Rush pioneer William Henry Ward and Alice Squabala of Yale. The Castle family. Maggie married August Castle at a very young age, and they had 5 children. Sadly, Maggie died when she was 29 years old, leaving August to raise their 5 children alone. August remarried 3 more times, but always called Maggie the love of his life. Martin and Monica Castle. Martin was one of the 5 Castle siblings and August's older brother. He was a waiter on the steam wheeler that traveled between Yale and New Westminster. Martin was away at work in August 13 when their father Martin Sr., a well-known Vancouver baker, for unknown reasons, burnt down his 3 bakeries, killed his wife, and then committed suicide. James Lamb, a blacksmith found deceased on the railway near North Bend, having been killed by a passing train.
Can you read this one? Oh, when you get closer, you can see it's something far in that.
Yale was founded in 1848 by the Hudson Bay Company. It was once known as the largest city west of Chicago and north of San Francisco. Yale played an important role in the events which threatened British control in the region with annexation by the United States. known as the Fraser Canyon War in McGowan's War. Not only the head of river navigation, it was the best location for the Caribou Wagon Road. It went from Yale to Barkerville, a sight you thought you would never see. Camels were once used as pack animals in Yale during the construction of the wagon road. The idea was short-lived as camels didn't do well on the rocky footpaths through the mountains, and they smelled so bad passing horses and mules would often bolt their loads, causing both horse and rider to fall. The Church of St. John the Divine, one of the oldest churches in BC, first constructed in 1863 as the Church of England. It received major reconstruction in 1953 and a small one in 2001. Aside from the reconstruction, it's been left untouched by 3 major fires that burned through Yale. The Creighton House. Recognized as a heritage building, it is now home to the Yale Museum, gift shop, and archives. On site you will find a donated Smith & Wesson 6-shooter belonging to Ned Stout. Ned was involved in the Fraser Canyon War in 1858, being shot by an Indian. An arrowhead still exists with the family members. Little is left to show the presence of Chinatown, but what remains are a perfect display of ingenuity and craftsmanship. These structures are called the stone vaults. The walls are constructed of a mortared riverstone and are between 12 inches to 2 feet thick. The steel doors were shipped in from San Francisco. Kwong Lee built the stone vaults, built to protect his family's valuables and the valuables of others. He was a merchant and believed to have had the first chain of stores in BC. So this brings us to our last story for today, a story of lost treasure that was never found. It was September 11th, 1863. A shipment came from the Caribou with Dietz and Nelson. As the story goes, Higgins, responsible for moving the gold, arrived late for the delivery. Grabbing a rowboat, he quickly paddled up to the Reliance, crews already turning around seeing Higgins with the package. As he leaned over the boat trying to pass a 20-pound bag of gold and coins to a member on the Reliance, the bag slipped from his grasp, sinking to the bottom of the river just off a steamboat landing. They looked for it for a few days, but it was never found. The package, worth over $125,000 today's value, still sits somewhere on the murky bottom of the Fraser River.